All right, great. So again, thanks for joining us on the actually first ever CUSD SAT ACT Bootcamp. Again, my name is Anthony Russomanno. I'm the coordinator for college and career for the district. And if you have heard of us, we are Futureology and we help with college and career planning. So again, thank you for attending tonight. It's the first of its kind, and we hope to do many more of this type of programming for everybody. So again, we're going to record this for those attending tonight and for those that are not here so they can watch it back. Uh, Again, this SAT ACT Bootcamp, you have received the schedule and the syllabus. It's going to go through March. If you do miss a session, please go to the next session as well. We'd love to have you join us for as many as you can. If you do miss one, you can make it up as well watching the recording. For many times, I'm going to turn my video off so you don't get confused by anything I'm saying and showing on the screen. So a lot of times you'll see me go in and out of the video. So for example, if you see me go off here and you just see a name on just like that, don't be shocked. That might be happening if I'm showing you a PowerPoint. But for tonight, my goal is to just shed some more light onto the process of taking the SAT or the ACT, becoming a better test taker, and ultimately giving you a lot of tools and strategies to maximize your test score. So that's the plan for the night. And I'll do a little housekeeping. I'll tell you how you can answer questions, the whole process about it, and then we'll actually start some of the teaching. So I'm just very excited to bring you this program. I'm going to talk about two of the other instructors that'll be joining me at the other sessions as well. One's named Alan and one's Travis, and they're fantastic instructors. I myself have been teaching SAT and ACT and PSAT over 20 years. So I'm going to bring you some of my experience and show you, again, how to ace the test. So that's one thing we're going to do. So what this is and what it's not, and I'll go through some of the slides. So I'm going to share my screen right now, but before I do, I have one question. Megan's asking, how can I watch the recording? You're going to hear all about that, and I'll talk about that. You'll be able to watch it when you get the recording emailed to you. So that'll come later. So some of the questions that you guys ask, I might wait till later. So some of the housekeeping, this Zoom platform, the best way is to ask a question through the Q&A. I'll either answer it live at the moment, or I might get it and answer it later, or I might just even text you back with that answer. So that's the best way to communicate throughout this process. There is a chat in this chat area. I will see that, but it's best to go through the Q&A. I can answer that more directly, and I see that a question is coming. So that's one. The second housekeeping issue is, again, I mentioned I'll keep the video off sometimes so you're not so distracted from that if I'm presenting using the slides or we're actually going over a test of some sort. Both my other presenters will kind of follow that as well. If you need to get in touch with me or the instructors, I'm going to share those emails in a slide in a few moments. Feel free to reach out to us. And that part is, again, on your own. This process is going to be about you participating and then as well doing work outside the program. It's a very limited in terms of getting actual feedback on your questions and your homework or any of that sort. So understand that. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. You should have received the syllabus in an email as well as the link to this classroom. So keep using that link to the classroom for that schedule. Other than that, I think we'll be ready to get going, and I'll take you through some stuff. I'd love for you to follow up with us when we reach out to you after the program is over. Give us some feedback so we can improve the program. So other than that, I think that'll do it in terms of the housekeeping. So if you do have any questions about anything I've just said, please free to ask it in the Q&A. A couple of other items. I might do a poll. If you see a poll, I would love for you to answer that. I just try to get some feedback from students about where they are in the process. So we might send that out to you from time to time. Other than that, I'm going to share my screen right now. So here we go. And here we go. So again, here I am, and I'll go in and out. There's my email on the board. It's ajrussomanno@capousd.org if you have a specific question, maybe not answered tonight, or upcoming. Again, I would refrain from questions that maybe you saw in the syllabus. If you read some of that stuff, it might answer your questions. That would save me a lot of time just because I get so many emails from that stuff, okay? So again, if you have some questions, feel free to go through the Q&A. So we're here to go and talk about the SAT and the ACT, right? So, a lot of people go, well, how important is that test? So I'm going to give you some background. So the first 10 to 15 minutes are about background about the test and why it's important and what you should do, and paint that perspective. And then we'll go into actual teaching you some strategies and some methods, okay? So here I'm going to go, and I'm going to turn off my video so you guys can really focus on on the screen right here. So again, Futureology, just a real quick bit about us. We help you with college and career planning. We do a lot of different topics. Some of you have visited us already, but we can do a lot more. So if you actually go down here where it says one-on-one appointments, you can register for an appointment with us. Down here, you can visit CUSD-Futureology.org/appointments and events to meet with us, okay? All right, so how important is the SAT in the grand scheme of things, right? And a lot of times people want to know. I'm going to skip through some of these slides here just because of time. Oh, again, one more housekeeping issue is we do have a student folder. A lot of you asked for access. That's where we're going to keep all your problem sets, your syllabus, your handouts, and that's where you can do some drills. So keep that handy, and we'll be accessing that. I will be giving you access. Some of you have requested it because you've used an outside a Capo USD email, so I actually have to give you access. So my instructors, again, there's Travis, Alan, and myself, and we have between the three of us almost 60 years of experience teaching these exams. So you're in good hands, okay? And there's their emails. Again, you'll have the recordings, so you could always go back to them. So what this is, what it's not, and then we'll talk about the importance of the SAT. This program is something that's going to give you a general understanding of the basic essentials of the test, from content to some strategy. It's at your own pace, but for some of you, it's not going to be a substitute for in-depth, intensive test prep. For some of you, you might want 200 to 300 points of improvement. You can't necessarily do that just in a month. Now, we're going to teach as much as we can in these six sessions, but it might require you to do some additional stuff outside the class, and that's on you guys. So again, take advantage of it, but if you need to do more, then please do, okay? You might need to do more for those people who want, like I said, 200 to 300 points, 4 to 6 points on the ACT. Be careful that and expecting that that's what's going to happen in this month. It really depends on you and the discipline you have to do additional work, okay? So how important is the SAT? Again, the most important thing in college admissions is your grades. Your test scores come secondary to that. So more than anything, make sure you're still doing well in your classes in school and you're taking challenging courses. That is always still the #1 component of it all. A lot of people ask me, what's a good score on the SAT or the ACT? And my token response is the one that actually gets you admitted to the school of your dreams. A great score is that score that actually gets you where they're calling you and they want to give you money to go to their school. That's a great score. So it's really going to be different for everybody. So it's really important that you set your own goals, okay? Comparing the SAT or the ACT, you only need one exam. And a lot of you I saw that were taking both exams, and you don't have to. Colleges will accept one. There's no one test that's right for you. It's the one that you're going to do better on. So some of you have already taken the PSAT, some have taken the SAT or the ACT. Well, my suggestion would, if possible, to just stick with one and focus on that if you can. Now, we're going to prep you for both, but it's a lot of time, money, and energy to do both exams. So again, there's no a right or wrong taking one or the other, but colleges will look at one or the other, just your best score. So in terms of both exams, people always ask me, well, what's the difference between the two? Well, let me tell you what's the same. between the SAT and the ACT? Well, the core of both exams are similar. It's what makes standardized testing really challenging, and it's on both exams. For example, it's really aggressively timed. There's so much pressure to finish the exams. That's on both the SAT and the ACT. There's grammar, there's reading comp, there's charts and graphs. It's primarily multiple choice, and math covers many years. That's the same on both exams, okay? So understand that. So a lot of the things we're going to teach you over the next 6 sessions applies to both because there's so many similarities. And for those that have differences, for example, the ACT science, we actually have a separate class meeting for that. So again, there is a lot of similarity between both exams. I'm not going to walk you through the structure and the format because you're going to see this as we go through it, okay? One thing to note is, as you've probably heard, you don't lose any points for getting something wrong on either test. And so it's really important that there's no wrong answer penalties. You should always have an answer that you should guess. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit about that when we get into strategy. So again, I'm just painting the picture behind everything. And for those you're still deciding between SAT and ACT, a lot of times it's what you perform better on, or actually if you're in a gray area, meaning that I don't know which one I perform better on, I'm going to go with the one I feel more comfortable with. Okay, and again, if possible, choose one and stick with it. And this is usually a chart that I usually show a lot of my students, that if you're determining which one you should go down, and some of you might be in that where you've taken an ACT and have taken a PSAT or a practice ACT, you can say, well, I got a 20 on the ACT. So if I go down here at the 20 spot, you can see my little red dot here. And I got a 1200 on the SAT. Well, here I go, here I go. Look, I'm in the favor of the SAT section. So you should stick with the SAT. There's no point in going down the ACT path. Sometimes people go, well, I'm going to just try it anyway. Well, that's just a waste of time. So if you have some numbers in terms of scores that you can determine that, this will help you decide. Again, part of it is having time to do the prep properly. And if you're doing both exams, sometimes it might slow you down. So that's all I'll say on that. Again, if you guys have some questions as I go through this, and I promise you I'm going to teach you some stuff, but I really need to paint you this picture of these tests before anything, because you need to understand these are not academic tests. So these are some myths and misconceptions and some truths about these exams. When I took the test back in the day, which was a really long time ago, I used to thought it measured how smart I was. And when I took the test and I was over 4.0 GPA, I go, well, shoot, I guess I'm not as smart as I thought I was, because my score was really average, but my GPA was well above average. And I realize now that I teach this stuff for 20 years that it doesn't measure your intelligence, it just measures how well you take the exam. And so what I'm going to try to do with you guys and my other instructors is teach you how to take the test. So it doesn't test your intelligence. You know, the other things, it doesn't really reflect your GPA in high school as well, because I hear this all the time, especially from parents. My son's a 4.97246 GPA, but he doesn't take tests well. Okay, so that happens quite a bit. And you can definitely increase your scores. And that's why we're here, is to prepare for that. And it doesn't necessarily test what you've learned in high school. I had a student who was in pre-calc come in the other day, and he didn't do well on his math, even though he was in pre-calc and he was a junior. Part of it was he was testing on the math so long ago, and that's why students struggle. So here's my little chart to give you a sense of what's going on for students. We talked about time pressure. Students don't do well on the SAT or ACT because it really puts you under pressure. In high school, the teachers really want to test what you know. Did you listen to my class? Okay, great. All right, you did well because you actually studied what I told you to study. In the SAT and ACT, they're testing you on 4 years of math. They're testing you under time pressure, and that's really tough. They got you testing grammar rules you forgot. So it's a very rigid exam, and it's not as socialized as your high school test, and they're not as generous. So that's why a lot of students struggle, even if they do well in school. So you might be one of those students, and if you are, this should really help you, okay? So I'm going to talk to you about a 5-step process when we go through this program. So here are the 5 steps. I didn't fill in the blank yet, and I'll tell you about each of these steps as we go through it. So remember, there's going to be these 5 steps, okay? And keep that in mind. Now, somebody asked a question, can you take the ACT or the SAT as many times as you want until you get your best score? You could, but that's not going to be helpful for you, Daniel, because it's not going to look great if you took it 8 times. So what I tell students is, prep for 1, okay, and be done with it if you can. Plan for 2, okay, so that if you prep for 1 and you didn't do as well as you like, you have planned for 2, so you have time to take it a second time, but you leave time for 3. I wouldn't go past 3. But if you do it wrong the first 2 times because you weren't even prepping or do anything, then what's the point if you're going to do the same thing? There's no point keep taking it over and over again. You have to learn some things, and that's what we're here to do these next few weeks, is teach you how to approach the exam, okay? All right, great question. So moving on. You can really be taught how to do well on this test. Like I said, it's a very coachable test. It doesn't test your intelligence, it just tests how well you do on the exams. Now, a lot of students make mistakes because they go through too quickly, they make careless errors, they do things in their head. I had a kid come in and saw me last month, and he did actually pretty well on his ACT, and I looked at his test booklet. There was nothing written down. He did everything in his head. And that's a problem. You need to write things down and not do it in your head. So there's more things to test prep than that, but that was one thing I saw that was glaringly a big error, okay? So both exams are very coachable, and we're gonna kind of get into that. But the first thing I want you guys to do is set some goals, okay? This is an example of setting a goal for an ACT. So, excuse me. So if we're doing an ACT, what you wanna do is look at each of your section scores and look at how many questions you've got to answer to get a better score. Okay, so for example, and if you haven't taken an ACT or don't know, the score is scored from 1 to 36, but there are raw scores. So for example, let me skip through this here for a second to show you. This is what a scoring grid would look like for the ACT, okay? So if you were scoring, for example, you got your scaled score of 20, let's say 25 right here. So I'm hitting 25. That means, for example, on the math, you got 40 to 41 questions or 41 points correct. For every question you get right, you get a point. For every one thing you get wrong or leave blank, you get nothing. So basically, to get a 25, you get 40 to 41 questions. If you want to go to a 27, you would need to get 45 to 47. So you can see right here in this gap from 40 to 45, you got to get 5 to 6 more questions to get 2 more points in math. And that's how you set your goals. Okay, so I'm going to go back here. And so, for example, if we were doing math, I'm going to forget my spotlight, I'm going to start drawing here if I can. So let's just say I had a 40 on my math right there. And we said we need to get 45, let's say, to get 2 more points. So you need 5 more questions. So you need 5 more questions to get correct. So that's what you would do to set a goal for the ACT. And the SAT is very similar. And so in order to set goals, you want to do something like this. Again, this is going to be on you guys. But once we have some goals, instead of randomly and blindly going at it, it's going to set you up better, okay? So that's the first thing I want you to do, is set some goals. Now, I'm not going to check that you set goals or not, but you'll know it if you do or not, and it'll help you when you start doing practice tests and stuff like that. So again, once you have a goal and where you want to be, you also want to take a look at, let's see, some of the schools that are out there, because when you set goals, hopefully you're looking at schools you're interested in. Oh, let me get all my drawings off here. Okay, so you have a school like Amherst, or you have a school like Brown or ASU, any of these schools on here, pick a school. So let's just say I'm interested in attending ASU. So it's got a 1220. If you're at 1,000, you're over 200 points away. And that's part of setting the goal. So what do you need to do to improve 200 points on an SAT? Or if it was an ACT, if you were at a 24 to a 26, I need to get, 2 more points in math. That's 5 more questions. You set those goals. And that allows you to prep properly. The higher improvement you need, the more intensive work you need to do. If you're looking to go up 50 points or 30 points on an SAT or 1 point in ACT, maybe you don't need as much as someone who needs 5 points or 300 points. And that's how you set the goals, okay? So again, I encourage you to set the goals as a starting point for this program. And a lot of you already have those starting baseline scores. Now it's a matter of picking the schools you're interested in, setting that goal, and saying, how am I going to improve 100 points or 200 points? Brian asked, can colleges see how many times you take it? Well, it depends on the colleges. Some colleges will ask you for all your test scores. Some colleges just care about what your best score is. But again, you don't want to get in the habit of taking it too many times. Now, there is something called score choice as well on the exams where they won't see every time you take it. But some schools will ask you for that. So again, it really depends on where you apply. Good question. Are there different ways to study for each test? Yes, there are some nuances of both, Sophia. So I would say, again, if you don't have to take both, then don't. And where you don't have to take both. So I would study for the one that you're going to do better on. And you need to figure that out because there are some differences between the two. But what we're going to teach you in this program is going to help prepare you for both, and some things will apply. Somebody asked, how about UCI, which is my alma mater, go Anteaters, okay? There's a lot of factors that go into going to college. For UCI, you're probably looking at between 1,250 and 1,300. But again, you guys have to look all this stuff up. So I'm not going to spend too much time telling you all those scores. You can look these scores up. There's a bunch more schools on here. The whole point of this was to determine what your goals are, because that's going to help you with the prep process. And then the other great thing is, maybe you hit your goal of the school you want to go to, but you know what? If I get 200 more points, I can get $15,000. So, if you wanted to go to Baylor in Texas and you had 900, well, 100 more points will get you over $11,000 in scholarship money, merit aid based on your test scores. So there's a lot of factors such as GPA and test scores that can provide you merit aid. So that, again, another reason why you should prep for these exams if you're close to that merit aid award. Okay, so these are just a sample. Again, you can look up all the schools you're interested in and look for any merit aid that they have, and that might help you with the goal. Okay. My friend took the SAT a lot for a good super score. Is that a good strategy? Well, depends on what a lot is, Kayla. If it's 7 times, it's not a good strategy because you're wasting time. There's more things that are more important than taking the SAT 7 times. So if they took it 2 or 3, maybe that's a good strategy if that worked for their school. There's more to it than just that, but Alan, we're not going to do prepping for the essay because it doesn't go in your number score. It doesn't go, it's a separate score, so we're leaving that off. That's something you have to go get if you want to work on that. Anonymous, any advice for people taking the SAT this Saturday? Yes. Have you heard of the hope and pray method? And if you have, I'd use that. That's where you kneel by your bed, you fold your arms together, and you say, please, Lord, help me do well on the SAT this Saturday. So for you anonymous viewer, that's what I would suggest. But you'll learn some stuff tonight in the next hour, but probably not enough. And it really depends on how many points you need to improve. So if you're looking to go up 200 by this Saturday and you've done nothing, it's not going to help you. I would postpone the test. The benefit of doing the essay, lots of great questions, but these are the last 2, and then I'm going to get into teaching you guys because we're talking about the essay way too much. The benefit is some schools require the essay, so that's why. So that's the only benefit. And do you need the essay? It depends on the school, so I would go and check with the schools you're interested in. If you don't know where you want to go yet, I'd take the optional essay because that'll help keep the options open for you. All right. All right, guys, let's get into some actual teaching and learning how to do this stuff. Okay. Um, the other thing to mention with your goals, though, is it's not built overnight. The kid who's taking the test on Saturday, yeah, I mean, if you're looking to really improve, you need time. You need to space out taking practice tests. Cramming is not a solution for improvement. Okay, so those one-day test prep programs, it's not meant for improving your score quite a bit. It gets you some familiarity, but it's not going to give you the improvement that a lot of people are looking for. Okay, you need to space it out. Sonia, why don't you ask your question? Keep asking questions, and I'll see. And we're not going to talk about essay questions. That has something to, this is test prep. All right, guys, so global strategies. That was the lesson for tonight. So we have the next hour to talk global strategies. So what does global strategies mean? Basically, they're strategies, ways, and an approach to taking the exam that's going to apply to different parts of the test. So something can apply for more than one part of it. It's also going to apply to both exams. So those are the global strategies. And the application is to both the SAT and the ACT. So that's what I'm going to be teaching you tonight, are things that can apply to both exams. And again, it's going to be useful because the core things tested on both standardized exams, such as the time pressures and some of the math, it's going to be very applicable for you. So that's kind of what we're going to do with this global strategies topic, okay? So the first thing I want to talk to you about is test management. And it's kind of an afterthought for most people because your academic test isn't about test management. It's about what you know, your content knowledge, okay? So under test management, I got a few more questions, but I'm going to bypass those for now because they're not necessarily fully relevant yet. So again, a lot of people bypass test management, but it's really, really important. So the first global strategy is about managing your time, taking the test on your own terms, and some of these topics here. If you look at this time of all both exams for each section, it kind of gives you an idea of how many seconds you have per question on each exam. You'll notice on the ACT, it's not as forgiving as the SAT. And that's changed with the new SAT that happened this past year, okay? So one of the first things we're gonna talk about is your pacing, okay? And some of you might have seen me before, and I do this a lot with pacing. And pacing is just how fast or slow you go. So here we go. On the SAT, for example, there's Mr. Rabbit. Mr. Rabbit, does he go fast or slow, guys? Yeah, exactly, fast. Okay, Mr. Rabbit is a fast test taker. There's 58 questions in the math. Now it's broken up on the SAT in two, but for the simplistic sake, we're gonna say they've got one section with 58. He takes the test. He goes through the test blazing fast. He gets 26 right. Mr. Rabbit gets 32 wrong. Not very good, or not very accurate. And that means a 26 raw score, which means about a 540 on the SAT. Okay, for some of you go, that's a great score. For some of you, that's not even close to where you want to be if you want to go to UCLA or something like that. So that's not really a good approach. And this is where pacing comes in. Now we got Mr. Turtle. Mr. Turtle, does he go fast or slow? Yes, slow. Thank you, Sophia. Mr. Turtle goes very slow. And you know what? On this test, that's a good thing, okay? Because when you go slow, like Mr. Turtle, what ends up happening is you're going to answer fewer questions or attempt fewer questions, but you're going to be more accurate. And then on the last one, because on the last bunch, you don't have the time, but you're just going to guess because, you know what? I don't have the time. And by going slower and answering the questions that they're really good at, you're going to be more accurate. You're going to get more right. You're going to get a better raw score. So 30 correct means 580. And guess what? On the ones he guessed, Mr. Turtle, by probability's sake, is going to get a few more correct, which is going to lead to a better score. So pacing is a really big deal in this test. If some of you just go at it and you try to answer every single question, you're going to struggle. Okay? One is you're going to struggle with time. I didn't have enough time to do every question. You're going to struggle because you're going to make some errors on the easy questions. If you, all of you have taken the PSAT, because I know in this district everybody does. Go back to your PSAT score and look at how many easy, medium, and hard questions you got right or wrong. If you see a lot of easy and medium questions wrong, it's probably because maybe you knew how to do it, but you were rushing to finish the test. And that's the time pressure we talked about. So Mr. Turtle and Mr. Rabbit. So the key is always going to be, what's your goal? For my 700 plus students for the math or the reading and writing on the SAT, or 30 plus on the ACT, you have higher goals, you're going to attempt more questions. For those that score lower, I never recommend for a student scoring 500 on the SAT to answer or attempt every single math question, or getting a 21 on the ACT to actually attempt every single question. My niece is taking the ACT now, and I have her do, there's 60, let's get to it, let me kind of go. There's 60 questions. So if you look here on the ACT, and the ACT goes from easy, medium to difficult, if you see that there, I don't have her do any of the difficult questions, okay? Because she gets them all wrong. She spends all her time in there because they take longer, because they're wordier, longer problems. And what happens is she misses number 6 and number 8, which are easy and that she knows how to do, but because she's rushing. So by doing fewer questions, so she's only allowed to answer the first 42 questions. And then when she goes through those, she goes back to them and makes sure she gets them right. And then on the difficult questions, she just guesses. So Tabitha, should you always guess the same letter for the section you guess on when you run out of time? That's a great way to do it. So I would say yes, we call that letter of the day, and I'll talk a little bit about that, LOTD. That's a great way to do it. Sure, CCCCC for an ACT, on an or on an SAT. On an ACT, well, they have different letters, so you might go J, A, you go back and forth. So you'll have to kind of note that. Somebody asked, where can you check the types of questions you missed on the PSAT? You need to log in online or get your paper report. It'll tell you the types of questions you missed, but the one online will actually, you'll be able to go back and sort it and filter it. So you'll have to go check, log in and get it there. So definitely I recommend doing that. Pacing, is there a maximum or minimum number of questions to answer? Brian, first of all, let's throw the caveat out there. You need to answer every single question on the SAT or the ACT. The question you should be asking is the maximum or minimum number of questions to attempt. And when I say attempt, for example, my niece, she only attempts 42 questions on the ACT math, so she stops right here. And then she guesses on the other one. She doesn't read the question at all. So answer all of them, attempt only a certain number. So yes, for students, it's going to be individualized based on how well you're doing. So again, if you're a 550 math scorer on the SAT, you don't attempt every question. If you are a 25 math scorer on the ACT, don't attempt every question. It's going to be different for everybody. You have to learn what pacing works for you. Okay, I won't have that answer for you because I don't know everybody's pacing plan or where they're at. So that's something to figure out. That's going to make a huge difference in your accuracy and how you score and where you have enough time. Okay, so great question, Brian. Taylor, LOTD stands for letter of the day. Mine is A for Anthony because I can remember that. If A is crossed off, I pick B because it's closest to A. So I have a method. And the reason I don't flip a coin is it takes too long. So my letter of the day, I go in with it, knowing it, so I don't have to think about it, okay? All right, so here's an example of a student. Student 1 attempted all 60 questions. So back to your question, Brian, and then the second student only attempted 45, like my niece. Look at the accuracy. Student 2 had more accuracy because they did fewer questions, and they guessed 15 times, and the other person attempted them all. And you'll see the actual score, there's a difference in about 3 points because you're doing fewer questions. That's how much pacing can affect your score. You don't need to be smarter and take pre-calculus, but if you have a better pacing plan, that's going to make a lot of difference for you. And that might affect the 1 or 2 points on an ACT, 50 to 100 points on an SAT just from your pacing alone. And that's a global strategy, guys. It applies to both tests. So a couple more things. For example, here, questions are in order on the ACT. Look, easy, medium, and difficult. Do the questions that you know are easier and medium. They're all worth the same, okay? Do the questions you have time for. We call this a pass methodology, okay? So for again, the way the pass methodology works is I do all the questions I know first. And again, some of you won't even attempt the difficult questions. Then I go back a second time. So first time through, then I'll go back a second time, and I'll show you when we actually look at a test in the next half an hour. Okay, and then the third time through, I go back again, but I guess, and I don't attempt every single question. I guessed on the harder on the harder ones. So aim for accuracy, slow down, and don't waste time with questions that are way too long or too hard. Okay, you don't have time to work every single question, so you have to be smart about which ones you attempt. Okay, so POOD right here, we call that personal order of difficulty. So you need to do the questions that look easiest to you, and that's going to be different for everybody. Okay, so for example, if I go to a test, let me stop my sharing here, and then I'm going to open up. Let's share my desktop here. Nope, let me do this. I'm going to open up an actual test, and then we're going to go look at it so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Let me get to it. All right, here we go. So I'm going to share my screen again. And by the way, some great questions going on, guys. You got to keep them up, keep the questions coming. All right, so for example, here's an SAT question. So when I say personal order of difficulty, I'll go to math because it's just easier to understand, okay? So for some people, and I'll go to the little harder questions. If I'm looking at question 5, 7, 5, 6, and 7, some people go, well, 7 looks just like a headache. I'm going to skip that because that's just not in my wheelhouse. I'm going to do question 6. Okay, and that's what personal order of difficulty is. You don't have to do every question. Do the questions that look easiest to you. If you're better in geometry, then do those questions. Or if you're better in algebra, do those first. You can do them in any order that you want. So when you do a pass, do the questions that make sense to you. Okay, so that's really important. If I go to an ACT, it's the same thing. You can look up an ACT and you can kind of see offhand. If I'm in the grammar, for example, look at this question. Question 48, 49, and 50 and 51. 51 for me personally, it takes me longer to consider adding a sentence, and I would skip that one. I would do the 48, 49, and 50, skip 51, go to 52, because 51 is going to take me longer. The ones that are 48, 49, and 50 are easier to do. So I skip 51 to save myself some time. And that's what I mean by personal order of difficulty. So you have to get in touch with it and control the test and manage it yourself. Okay. Does the SAT follow that format? Well, a little bit. It's a little bit more random than the ACT on the math, but you'll be able to know your personal order difficulty based on the types of questions you like. So you'll have to learn that. It's a process. You won't know it in a second. I can look at any test and know which questions I'm going to do and if they're easy, medium, or difficult. You'll know, for example, 2x plus 4 is equal to what? Equal to 8. What is x? That one's going to be an easier question. You'll know how it's asked. You'll know the more complicated questions have more steps. They're longer word problems, okay? So can you hire someone to take the test for you? Yeah, it costs you $1,000. No, you'll get in trouble. Don't do that. When do you decide not to do a question? Should you skip it? Yes, you should skip it and fill in a letter of the day and answer it. So Great strategy question. You should skip it and put an answer in. So skip it if it's too confusing, and we'll talk a little bit that in a little bit. Too confusing, or it's not. It's the number you're not going to do number 48 on an ACT because your score is not high enough. So definitely you got to make a plan for that. So guys, you're starting to get it. You're asking the right questions. You need to figure all this out before you go into the test. You don't just determine it on test day, and that's the problem for a lot of people. They go in and they go, I don't know what to do. You make these plans before your actual test day, and that's the point of this program, is to give you that insight. Okay. um, so when skipping a somewhat harder or longer question, when you skip it, is that one of the ones you will be guessing on, or are you coming back to actually try it? Brian, great question. I don't know you as a scorer, so I don't know. If you're a high scoring math student, for example, 750, you would actually come back and do it. If you're a 500 one, you don't come back and do it. You're guessing on it, okay? And you're moving on. You're not even attempting to read it. You look at it once, it gives you a headache, you bubble it in, and you move on, okay? Now that's in a nutshell. There's a little bit more to it, and that's why you probably need a little bit more understanding of the test. Somebody's asking quality over quantity. Well, I'm saying accuracy over quantity. So quality, I'm not sure what you mean by quality, but personal order of difficulty in a way is like quality. You get to choose your quality, but it's accuracy over quantity. But great way to put it, Fernanda. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, but great questions. You guys are getting it. There's a lot more to it, and we just touched the beginning, the tip of the iceberg. Okay. So we talk about pacing yourself. So it's all about working smarter. I like to say not harder, because a lot of people are actually, they work so hard on this stuff, but they don't really think about it. They go, I work so hard on test prep and I spent so many hours, but if you're not doing it the right way, you know, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to make the progress. And I see that happening all the time. Okay. Somebody wants to know, what letter do I recommend guessing? A, of course, because my name starts with it. No, it doesn't matter. Whatever you want. Okay. I'm going to share my screen again. So here we go. So we're back on, and we talked about some of this stuff. Okay. So now I'm going to move to content a little bit, just for fun. So I'm going to do, I think, well, actually, let's back up here. I have a poll, and I haven't asked you my poll yet. So I'm going to launch it. So take a look at it. Kind of want to get a sense of. There's 2 questions of this first poll. So I'm launching it now. I wanted to launch it earlier, but I forgot to do it because I got too excited. So, so which test and your goal? What tests are you taking, SAT, ACT, or both? And how many points do you want to improve? And I want to get a sense of my audience here, my room. All right. I'm going to end polling soon. Okay. Well, it sounds like a lot of people want to improve over 50 points, and a lot of people want to improve 150 or 4 points. Okay, so for those asking, I'm taking the test on Saturday. I hope you're not the ones that want the 100 to 200 points improvement or 4 points, because again, it's probably not going to happen if you did nothing already. Okay, so I'm going to end the polling now. I'm going to share the results. So here's what we got, everybody. So a lot of you taking the SAT and ACT, a lot of you taking both. Again, not my recommendation, but I can't stop you. You're better off putting time and energy into one test, but so be it. I only got you today, and then maybe I didn't talk to you prior to that, or Futureology hasn't talked to you. And a lot of you want to improve a lot, which is a great thing. But that tells me then there's a lot of work ahead. It's more than just what you're going to come to these sessions on. You actually got to go home and practice and discipline yourself and do a lot of work, okay? All right, so I'm going to stop that. That was a good poll. Here's my next poll. All right, let's go. Whoop. All right. All right. So here's going to be my next poll. So if you look on the screen, it's about content. So we're going to be a really simple question. We're going to do a little math. So the number 0, is it even, odd, neither? And then I added the last two because I know a lot of people, maybe your parents are making you come. So if you want to put D or E, you're more than welcome to. Okay. Oh, I got to keep getting questions. All right, some people are already guessing. And then the next one is the number even, odd, neither? And again, do you care or you don't care? So here comes my poll. I'll let you answer it, okay? Here it comes, guys. All right, I'll give you a chance. This is a quick question. I think my son, who's 9, can answer this. Let's see if you guys can. Oh, I gave the same answers for both. Oh, so my poll is off. It meant to say the first one, the number 0 is positive, negative, all that stuff. Hopefully you know that 0 is positive, but it looks like some of you don't realize that 0 is even. So I'm going to end the polling there. And that's a simple content thing. So the other thing you guys have to do is understand the content being tested. And the reason I do something like this is to just show you real quickly. Now, they wouldn't give it to you that straightforward. They would put it in a problem like in the number 204852216, how many distinct even integers are in that number? Then that's where they get you if you don't know 0 is even. And that's just math vocabulary that you probably had a long time ago. Here's another content thing, okay? So take a look at these, and I want you to tell me. I'm going to do another poll. And this is English content. So which one of these is correct? All right, all are incorrect, all are correct. It's all over the place. Again, notice how we can't all agree on something. Yeah, that happens. This is what it looks like, some of our results. And some people say 1 is correct. And again, this is content. So when I said there are 5 things to in doing well on the SAT or ACT, and the first one, it had just the letter C. That C meant content. If you don't have a good handle on your content, you're going to struggle. So this type of grammar is on the SAT and the ACT. So for example, only one of the juniors are. Well, are is incorrect, guys, because of the juniors, these are all incorrect. Of the juniors is a preposition, and what are is supposed to be representing is 1. 1 are is incorrect. It should be 1 is on number 1. Okay, so these are the kinds of grammar issues that you're going to see. Oh, excuse me, on the test. Okay. And the second one, the senior class have. Well, the senior class is a collective noun, so it should be has. And again, these grammar rules, and everyone should be has, everyone is singular. They're tricky pronouns. This type of content, if you're aware what's being tested and the kind of the red flags that are raised when they give you stuff like that, if you know what's going on, it's easier to recognize. So actually, when you have your lessons on grammar and content and stuff, when Alan does it, he'll show you some of these things. But I'm here to just show you, just in general, if you don't have a good understanding of content, you're going to struggle, and you need to learn that. And again, that's on you guys. We'll teach you some content, but not all content. You just don't have the time. And that's what you need to do on your own. Keep getting more questions, so I'm going to keep going with these. I'm not going to talk about written. So you don't get marked off points for not showing work? No, nobody looks at points. They just look at the letter you bubbled in and if you got it right or wrong. Okay, so that's important. It's not like high school where show me your work, I'll give you half credit. It doesn't matter. Do I recommend taking CC prep classes? It really depends, Anonymous, if you are, what kind of scores you need and improvement you need and what kind of materials you might have. So it depends on your goals. Okay, so you might want to come and talk to someone at Futurology. Okay. How much time on average should we take in completing a page of questions? Well, it depends on what questions it is. It depends on what kind of scorer you are. So it's really different for everybody. I can't answer that unless I know more about you as a tester. That's what you have to work on. You have to figure out what your pacing plan is. That's on you. So it depends on where you're scoring. Okay. Are there full PSATs available online? Well, you can access your PSAT and all the questions online. There are tests online, and I'll show you. In your student folder that I'm going to give you guys access to, there are links to full-length practice tests through Khan Academy and College Board and ACT. So the ones that I showed you a second ago that we were looking through, you'll have access to that through the student folder, okay? I'm not going to talk actual prep right now. I'm going to get back to the lesson, okay? Because this is more important stuff than that at the moment, okay? All right. I'm going to skip through this just because of time. Why do we take the test? Again, painting the picture of this, it's just a way to compare you to other students. But the way that it's scored, it's this normal distribution. So you need to understand that they don't want you to everybody to do well. They don't want everyone to do poorly. Otherwise, it wouldn't be credible exams, both of these exams. They want you to do in the middle, so you retake it a second time, a third time. Knowing that there are distractors on these exams. That's why there's time pressure, because if there was no time pressure and you had all the time in the world and they made it easy, everyone would do well. It wouldn't be credible. So understand that they don't always want you to do well. So you have to find ways and strategically to approach questions and what to be aware of, okay? So does anybody know the capital of Malawi? Feel free to chat it in if you do. And I'll get to some of your other questions, guys, a little bit later. I want to make sure I get to the meat of this tonight's lesson, just because sometimes an hour and a half is just not enough to cover so much. All right, so yes, oh, I had somebody, yeah, and got it great. They got it. But you know what? The SAT would be like this. They don't ask you something like that. What they do is they go, let's make it multiple choice. There it is. Now the SAT is hard, or the ACT that's harder than that. But this idea of what we call POE, which is process of elimination, is such a huge strategy that you need to employ on the SAT and ACT because you can actually eliminate all the wrong answers to find the correct answer. Okay, so the long way, okay, maybe you didn't know it, but you can find it. And that's what you need to do on the SAT and the ACT. So I'll give you an example. Here's reading process elimination. So here are some answers. Okay, some people, yeah, I see a lot of you guys are chatting. Okay, no questions. I'm just checking the chat and the Q&A. By the way, I could see all your chats, so just if you're worried. So process elimination. In these A through D, is there one that you could eliminate? What would you eliminate? And you could chat that in or put that in the Q&A. What would you eliminate? C, okay. All right, some of you are saying C. Okay, why would we? Yeah, all right, Tesoro, great. Why would we eliminate C? Why do you guys want to eliminate C? Some people say D. Yes, so anonymous viewers, okay. All right, so let's take a look at this. Now, in a reading passage and reading answer choices, a lot of times we don't want to be putting in things such as somebody said silly boy. It wasn't just silly boy, okay? But let's talk about B. B's not going to be your answer because here's something. They're not going to put down the United States saying that monuments lack true cultural value, okay? They wouldn't do something like that. You have to remember on these exams, there's going to be a respect factor. They're not going to be very offensive. They're not going to have some things like that. It would never be an answer choice, okay? So when we look at it, you got to be aware of some of these things. And we don't even know what the passage is. And this is what process elimination could do. It can help you narrow the choices. Somebody said also C's not the answer. Yeah, it's not because of silly boy, but they're going to say silly boy enduring some punishment. They would never say that. So when answers are either extreme, offensive, they lack empathy a lot of times where they're putting somebody down or whatever, you're probably not going to see it as an answer choice. And that's where you can use process elimination. Now, Alan and Travis, they're going to teach you some other strategies and techniques, but I'm just showing you some strategies right now, such as process elimination. And here's how it would apply to reading. Let's look at another example. And somebody said D as well, and D wouldn't be because it's what we call extreme, never, something that would never be, or something that always is something. Those are extreme answer choices. So this answer, by eliminating all the wrong answer, would be A, okay? So again, authors are respectful, topics are worthy, okay? So let's take a look at the next one. What might we would eliminate? All right, and just because of time, I'm going to go through and just kind of show you guys some more process elimination here. But we would get rid of B and C. B because there's right here, if you can see it, inevitably, that talks about, that's extreme language when you see inevitably, okay? Or all constructs are needed in C. That shows us that, again, it's, and I'm going to point it out here. So all constructs are needed or inevitably. That shows us extreme nature of an answer choice. And so you're not going to have that as the answer choice. Okay, so again, that's one way to eliminate. Now, obviously, you're going to have to do some work on the reading passage, but this is other ways to be make the test more manageable. On the next question here, oh, excuse me, we're getting rid of B and D because in D, again, they're being offensive to teachers. Teachers are less valuable than supporters. They wouldn't say that. Or show an opponent's only purpose. That's extreme. Okay, so extreme answers won't be your choices. So you can eliminate those without even knowing what the passage is about. That just helps us get closer to the answer choice, okay? So you got to be looking out for those, all right? And I appreciate everybody chiming in and throwing some answers there, okay? All right. If you guys have, if you want to raise your hand, please throw me a chat or preferably in the Q&A. All right, so we're going to move on to some more work here. So now we're going to move to, again, more POE, but these are in what we call words in context type questions, okay? So in number 11, what would you eliminate? Hey guys, if you're chatting like, hey, I go to this school, that's great. Again, I see all this. I want to look for questions. I would really appreciate it that you refrain from that. Um, you know, just because I could focus on delivering the rest. Otherwise, just, you know, you could drop off if that's okay, and you can listen to the recording later. So I'd really appreciate it. Just if you have a question, chat it in, or you have a response to something, that'd be great. Otherwise, just refrain from, you know, shout outs and all that stuff. So I appreciate it. So in number 11, some people are saying C. All right. I'm looking, what would I eliminate? Okay. Okay, now in words in context, a little strategy around that is it's typically not the word you think it means. The first thing that comes to your head, which is usually the first and the primary definition, it's typically not the answer. So for example, in number 11, it's not going to be examined or compared, because when you think check, that's what you think about. Those things are you eliminate. Again, this is understanding the exams and knowing that you can do that. In number 18, fixes, you think of repairs or patches. So we're going to eliminate those. Again, the test writers, they're trying to find ways to make sure you understand context. So part of it is you need to go back to those lines and read the sentence. We're going to show you that as we move on. What I'm just trying to show you right now is just simple process elimination. And in number 22, we can actually get the right answer because we eliminated all three of the wrong answers. Enjoyment, you think of pleasure, satisfaction, and gratification. So that's a simple technique or method or strategy, actually, we call process elimination. Okay. All right. I'm going to move on here just because time. Here's another process elimination. Let's look at the question here. Now it's a math one. Okay. And what would we eliminate? Some people say B and A. Okay, great. Yeah, we're going to eliminate. Oh, let me go back. We're going to eliminate, yes, A, it's too small. Okay, so we would put, let's see if I can put a line through it. I'm eliminating A, it's too small. It has to be 5 consecutive odd integers is 45, okay? Which is the greatest? Well, it can't be B because that's even. So sometimes they do things like that. They put an answer where they want an odd answer and they give you an even number. It's never going to be the answer. Cross it out. And notice how I cross things out. Do that in your test booklet. Okay. So again, a process elimination question. All right. Oh, let me get rid of clear my drawing. Now, how about this one? What would you eliminate? D, good. D, some of you saying it. Okay, great. Yeah, we're going to eliminate, first of all, 1/4 of something and another 2/7. First of all, that number, the number 4 and 7 need to go in that answer. Okay, 4 and 7, they don't go into A. It's not going to be your answer. 4 goes into 16, but 7 doesn't. So just by elimination, we're not even necessarily doing the math. We're just finding out what's not the answer. And that's what process elimination is. And so guys, you need to practice this strategy. So the first thing I told you is content. The second thing on that list was strategy. Okay. So here's another process elimination. Let's take a look at another math question. Again, these are global strategies, guys, and you can apply it to both the SAT and the ACT. Somebody wants to know, are we just answering these out of context? Can you be a little bit more elaborate on what you're asking? Out of context? What do you mean by that? And were you talking about the reading questions or the math questions? So if you can re-ask that question, I would appreciate it. And somebody was asking on the reading ones, is it never the normal meaning of the word? It's rarely, okay? The key to that, and you'll learn about it when Travis and Alan go through it, is understanding the context of the sentence. But again, it's typically not. It's very rare. It happens once in every 20 questions. So I would be, I would use that strategy. All right, so in this one, okay, great. So in this one, in this question specifically, whoop, here we go. So in this one, we know we're going to eliminate 36 because there are some that are broken, so it cannot be a full 36, and 4 is too small. So again, um, it's just a great way to eliminate, is to look at the problem and see, are there things that I can get rid of? When you're dealing with only 2 answer choices, it's a lot easier for your mind and your psyche to wrap your head around it if you know it's one of 2 answers, okay? Um, Here's another strategy that we use. It's called ballparking. And ballparking is just a great way to estimate something. Now, look at this problem, okay? So again, this global strategy is a great way to approach math problems, especially on the SAT or the ACT, is when you see something and you go, boy, I can solve it directly, or I can guesstimate, or ballpark is what we call. So how do we do this problem? Well, the first thing is, I always like to tell my students to rephrase the question. Okay, really, we're just trying to find the area of the square minus the area of the circle. Okay, so the area is square, and then again, you need to know formulas, or look at the formulas on your test booklet. Okay, but that's really just side squared. So that's really easy. One thing you want to do, and we'll teach you more techniques as we get through the program, is label things. So 10 on each side. So I know the area of the square is 100. Well, I can try to mathematically solve for this shaded region, but the easier way is to ballpark it. If I know the area of the square is 100, well, then the football in here, I call this the football problem, is about 100. I mean, it's about half of that, 50. So if I know the area of the shaded region is about 50, then I can start to solve for it. And if I know pi is roughly 3, because I'm ballparking things, I'm not trying to be exact, because I don't have the time sometimes, then I know some things are too small or too big, and I can find the answer, B, by just eliminating and guesstimating. So it's a quicker way to solve sometimes, and a lot of people need more time, okay? So, um, yeah, ballparking is basically estimating or guesstimating. Thank you for answering that. So yeah, help your fellow students out. No, we weren't, somebody, back to your question, we didn't miss a passage. I was just teaching you a strategy called process elimination and how to eliminate, okay? So again, that's the technique. We're not teaching you how to do the passages stuff yet. That's part of the other lessons. I'm just teaching you what we call strategies right now, okay? And these are gonna be helpful over the time that we do it. Here's another ballparking problem, or guesstimating, okay? So take a look at it. Approximately, what is the area of the shaded region, which is composed of a right triangle region and a semicircle. Now, we did the one before, so use what I've just showed you and apply it. Now, I don't expect you all to get it right away, and that's why you need the practice. Guys, we're gonna have about 15, 20 minutes left, so I'm gonna finish up, wrap up, I'm gonna do a couple things, and then I'll open it up to some questions. Yeah, we're going to learn a lot of things in the program, guys. We can't all learn it in one night. So when we hit math, we'll do, I'm not sure your reference to plug and chug, but we'll be doing some things, and you'll be learning about specific questions and specific sections. Tonight is more general. And then on Sunday, you're going to have some stuff on the grammar. On next Wednesday, you'll have stuff on math. Again, look at the syllabus. It'll tell you. Okay, you guys should have access to the syllabus. It was emailed to you. It'll give you an idea of what we're covering. Okay. All right. So here we go. So let's take a look at it. Well, one of the best ways, again, let's ballpark this. Oh, I didn't ballpark it here. So if we have 2 and 2, area of triangle is 1/2 base times height. You'd want to write it down. Okay. Some people, you'd use Pythagorean theorem here. What I'm going to do is just make it simple. I know the area of a square because that's easy for me to remember. And I'm going to draw it here. Area of a square is side squared. Well, the area of that shaded region is about 4. If I know that that's about 4, it can't be A. It's got to be bigger than A. Then I just guesstimate. Well, is it going to be nearly double that? Well, heck no. So it can't be that. And it's not going to be double. Now I'm just left with B and C just because of my elimination. Now it's a matter, I'm going to ask myself by guesstimating, is it nearly double or just a little bit more, and then move on. And that's just part of what we call ballparking. And that's a way, and again, it's a strategy to employ when you see math questions. Process elimination is a strategy you can use on math. You can use it on reading, as I showed you already. Okay, so those are just, again, some what we call strategies that you can employ. So here's some more scoring strategies. Don't leave any blanks. That's not rocket science. Don't leave any blanks because you don't lose any points. You shouldn't always attempt every single question based on your goals. Again, LOTD, as I mentioned, letter of the day, wins every time. Don't start flipping a coin or go, what's my pattern? I did B, then C, then look at the patterns. Don't do that. Okay. Be aggressive. Use your booklet wisely. And when I say be aggressive, meaning that, like, make sure you're trying to go for answers and pick answers. Cross out answers you know are wrong in your booklet. Use the scratch work. Use what you know about the order of difficulty to cross off wrong answers. If it's an easy question, the answer is going to be easy. If it's a hard question and you just came up with it that quickly in a second, it's probably not the answer. Again, they want that normal distribution on that curve. If you can't eliminate anything, bubble an answer anyway. Skip confusing questions. We talked about that, but make sure you pick an answer. So if you have a question, Johnny's driving down the freeway at 40 miles an hour just after stopping at the grocery store for cantaloupe at 10 cents a pound. He knocked over 4 pedestrians along the way. How far did Frank carry the piano? That's confusing. Skip it, but pick B or pick A. Don't figure out something from scratch. It can't be anything in the world. It has to be one of the answers provided, unless it's a grid, and we talk about that later. And use logic and answer choices to give you a head start. So those are just some scoring strategies. Here's some more. Mark your answers carefully. What I do is I answer and this is what I do. I don't know if it's going to work for you, but I mark my answers in my booklet. I don't transfer the answers every single one I have. I'll do a whole page or two before I go over to my answers and bubble it in. Okay, but mark them carefully in both your booklet and when you bubble it in. Okay. Watch out for negative words like not or opposite. Circle them in your booklet. I tend to stay away from, for example, accept questions on reading because I'm not as good at those. That's my personal order difficulty. I don't do those. I don't attempt those. I just bubble in an answer. It takes me too long. Write down any formulas or mnemonics you have, like SOHCAHTOA or PEMDAS. Bubble answers in groups, as I mentioned. Keep your mind loose. Circle keywords, less than, least, some, product, so you can clue you in on what you're looking for. Underline what you're solving for. And we'll be doing this and we'll be showing you these things along the way when we actually do more problems, guys. Again, I'm right now giving you some generally scoring strategies that you're going to keep in mind. All right, I'm just looking at chats and more questions so I can make sure I get those. Questions on SAT, easiest to hardest? Not always, not in the reading and writing. And the math, there is some order, but not, you need to learn more about how it works, okay? And that just takes practice. If the drawing isn't to scale, then draw it to your scale when you're reading it, okay? And note that, but try to redraw it is what we say, okay? More questions that I won't say. Okay. All right, I'm going to move on here. So the third thing was, I said there's content, there's strategy. The third thing is what we call technique, and that's what you're going to learn throughout the next 5 sessions is step-by-step methods for solving specific question types. So from math, certain algebra questions, in the grammar questions, the reading, how to do passages, the science questions. You're going to learn those techniques in the program. You need that. You need a game plan for actually solving those questions. We're going to teach you those. So that's going to be part of the next few lessons, okay? You're also going to need practice. And this we don't provide for you, okay? You'll need to take numerous practice tests to increase your confidence and your endurance. Don't take it for the first time this Saturday if you haven't done any practice. You need to practice it, especially a lot of you I want improvements of 100 to 200 points. You need to take multiple practice tests spaced out, staggered, timed, in realistic testing conditions, okay? You don't take one section, then take another section another week. That's not gonna give you the truest sense of where you're at. You need practice with analysis, and you need to do it quite often. Okay, so here's the 5 things you're going to need along the way, and we're going to teach you a lot of these things. You're going to have to do a lot of the practice and analysis on your own. We're going to teach you some strategy, not all of it. We'll teach you a little content. We'll teach you some technique. So we're giving you a lot of essential components you're going to need, but a lot of it's going to need to be done on your own. Okay, so if you're on the call now, take note of that. If you're listening in, just understand that, guys. It's really important, and it falls on you based on your goals. Okay, one size doesn't fit all. Okay, it's going to be different for everybody based on your goals. Okay, somebody's asking, is 1 month enough to improve? I don't know. I don't know where you're at. So where are you at? Is it 300 points? Well, then 1 month is not enough, most likely, especially because you're in school now. If it were the summer, well, then maybe, but I doubt it. Usually it'll probably take you all summer long. It takes you twice as long, or maybe 3 times as long as you think so. You have to plan accordingly. So don't think this Saturday I'm going to come to this one call and I'm going to improve 200 points. That's just not going to happen. So you need to take full-length tests and put in the time. Okay. So your assignments, there'll be just some things you'll be able to access, and a lot of you have asked for access. So I'm going to go back and give you that access. You'll be able to go and look at some of the resources we have. So I have a link there where you can link on to Khan Academy College Board and access some of these free practice tests. They're free. You'll have to go back and do them. The assignments are for you, meant to actually do that and practice what I'm teaching you. So when you actually have a first assignment, which would be to do and go through SAT Practice Test 1 and look for anything that you can do some cross-elimination and some of the ballparking things, you need to do it. I'm not going to check it, unfortunately. I just don't have the time. But I still wanted to give you the resources and tools to actually start doing stuff. Okay, so go here to the student folder on the Google Drive. I gave you the link in the email, and then I'm going to give you the access when I approve you, and you'll be able to go on and actually access to these links. It's a Word document. Okay, so I'll even show you right now. I'm going to show you my desktop. I already have that. I'm going to stop this sharing. I'm going to So I'm going to show you what the folder looks like. Okay, so give me a second while I do that. So if you look here right now, so I'm accessing the Google Drive where you have this folder, which is your student folder. There's a link to the College Board and Khan Academy. There's links right here, this one right here in the middle. So let me get my annotator here, my highlighter. This one here has the links to this practice test. You just click it, it'll take you to Khan Academy, the College Board, or the ACT. This one has some SAT and ACT resources that are pretty good. This one's the syllabus, which you should have gotten. This one was the welcome letter that was emailed to you. And then in here are practice problems for each of the lessons that I'm doing. So class 1, class 3, which will be next Wednesday, which is mine. I'm going to put some of the stuff from Alan and Travis here, but there's some problems in here, and I have, for example, in class 3, some explanations. Don't do them until we have the lesson, but I would access this drive so you can look at the questions we have in there. So that's something you guys can get access to. And again, it's on you. I'm not going to be checking that you did these problems or not. But if you do it, I'm telling you, you're going to have a better chance of doing better, okay, on these tests. Will you have access to this PowerPoint? Great question. I will put it on this drive on the student folder, okay? So thank you for that. I didn't think of that, but I will do that. But you'll have access to the recording, and I'll put the recordings here as well. And I mentioned 1 month is not enough depending on your goal. Do you still lose points for getting questions wrong? No, you don't lose anything for getting one thing wrong. You don't get anything if you leave it blank. Always answer a question. Don't always attempt a question, and again, that deals with your pacing. What if we don't have time to finish all the questions? We have some blank at the end. No, if there's a minute to go or 30 seconds to go and there's 20 questions you haven't answered, bubble something in. you'll have, if you bubble in for 20, you have a chance of getting 4 right based on probability if you're taking an SAT. So don't leave them blank. So if you leave any blank, then you didn't plan properly. And that's part of learning how to take the test. It doesn't make you any smarter because you know how to do it. You just figured out the best thing for me to do is leave myself 30 seconds to make sure I have answered every single question. And that's part of the strategy. On the math, the ACT, yes, it goes from easiest to hardest. Now, again, easiest to hardest is personal order of difficulty. So maybe you might find number 40 harder than number 38. I mean, 40 harder than number, um, yeah, 15, based on what your personal order is, or 15 harder than 40. So again, you'll have to practice it so you can kind of sense what an easy, medium, or hard question is. Great question. Is it good to choose same flavor gum when studying and taking the SAT? Yes, very important. No, has nothing to do with it. I don't know why you asked that, but the class 1 folders, there's really not much in there yet. I'm going to put the, I'll put this PowerPoint in there for sure, so you can take a look at that. You don't have problems for tonight. There's maybe one problem in there. I'm going to tell you what the homework is for tonight. So you don't have problems. You'll have homework that's not in the folder, and I'll tell you what that is in a moment, okay? All right, I'm going to get back to talking to you guys about some stuff, and then we can wrap it up. Okay, we've got a couple minutes. I'm going to go a little bit over if that's okay. If you're not okay with you, then take off. But I would suggest you stay because there's some really good questions here. Okay. All right. So again, the assignment then for tonight is what I would like you to do, all right, is to go to practice test 1. Practice test 1, where you have the link, okay, on the Google Drive. For SAT and ACT, this first one, 2014, 2015, and just look for any questions you can do, process elimination, anything I talked about tonight for reading and for the math. And again, I didn't have time to take you through a lot of the types of questions I wanted to just because of the time, but we'll be able to maybe go on it next Wednesday. And do process elimination for reading and math, and take a look at the pacing. So look through those tests and look at what you would do for pacing. So for example, I'm going to just show you a quick example. I'm going to go back and I'll pick up a test. So let's just take an ACT. I'm going to pull it up. And this is what, so you can see what I want you to do, okay, to make it a little bit more hands-on. All right, so let me share my screen again. So here's a math test for an ACT, one of the ACTs. So you would pull an ACT up. And what I want you to do is 2 things. One is look through it and see, oh, I would do this question before this one. Kind of get a sense of what your personal order of difficulty is, what kinds of questions you like. And then I would also look for chances to eliminate stuff. You know, can I do some cross elimination? Can I do some guesstimating? And pick a question here, okay? And do that. So I would scroll through the problems and go, oh, you know, I wouldn't do, let's say, let me kind of get my annotator out here. And, oh, I don't like scientific notation. I wouldn't do 19. I would go straight to 20 because I like geometry. And I would do 21. I would skip 22 and get a sense of that. Get a sense of how you would pace it. Also figure out, what's my goal? Well, on this, on ACT, I only scored 20 on the math. So you know what? I'm not going to answer questions 45 to 60. I'm going to just guess on those because they're the hardest ones, and I'm going to focus. So plan your pacing out for each of the sections. Okay, and that's going to change over time as you improve. So as you go to 20 to 22 for your first practice test, 22 to 24, your pacing is going to change. That will change, and you change accordingly. Okay, so that's what I would want you to do, is go through that, and that's what your first homework assignment is. I'm not going to check it. You know it if you do it or not. Okay. All right. So back to this. They got a couple more questions I'm going to answer, and then we'll finish up here. You've been a very patient audience as we get through this. Okay. Do we have to do homework? That you don't have to, so I'm not going to check it. I answered that already. Do you want us to do the practice test for both SAT and ACT? No. I want you to pick one test and do the practice test for those. You can do pros, like if you know which test you want to do, then choose that test. If you don't know which test you want to do, try both questions and do stuff for both and see which one you like better and make a decision. That's what I want you to do. That's what's recommended, whether you follow that or not. How do you access the recordings? I will send it back out to you guys through email, and I will put them on the student folders. It was in your email, so please read all your emails and stuff. When you take a practice SAT, should you take it at the same time of day that you will take the real one? It's preferable. So Saturdays, great. Saturday mornings would be fantastic, but not necessary right now. As you try to figure out where you're scoring. How much time would you recommend before you take the SAT or ACT? In terms of weeks and prep time, I don't know if that's what you meant, Hannah, but that's probably based on your goals and where you're at and how much time you can put in. So that's hard to say. It's usually 2 to 3 months if you want a good improvement. That's probably usually a typical time frame, but that's how much time you can get done. The homework's under the, let's see, let me get that, let me check it. The homework was it's under the student folder. It says practice problems. So there's a folder in there. Okay, somebody asked that. If we want to aid on our essays outside this workshop, how much will it cost? It depends on what test prep provider you go to. So you want to look around and do some research on that. Does the proctor often tell you how much time there's left? They should, like 5 minutes left. A good proctor does that. So if you're taking your own test, keep your own time, but don't trust the proctor will. You can't blame them. If you have questions you want to meet with me personally, will it cost us? I work for the district and Futureology does too. It doesn't cost you, so it depends on what you want to talk to us about. If you want me to give you more pointers on this, I would suggest coming to this because I won't meet with you individually to do that. If you use your private email, do you ask me personally for the link to the folder? Yes, submit that. You can request that. We talked about the essay aiding. Is prep companies, which prep companies? I'm going to go back and show you guys kind of another slide. I know some people dropped out, but I'm glad that a lot of you are still here, okay, because we're still getting some questions. It's going to help you through. All right, so prep companies. So a lot of people go, should I do a prep company, do it on my own? OIO means on your own. If you're going to do it on your own, which is perfectly fine, but a lot of people aren't that disciplined, you got to take at least 2 practice tests. I recommend 4 to 5 for the big improvements. Do weekly drills, practice techniques, all these things we're going to be talking about. You can do it on your own, but it's really difficult. Prep companies are a good option, but it really depends on your goals. If your goals are really large in terms of improvement, you're going to need one where you take lots of practice tests in it, where they space them out, they score them for you, they give you an idea of where you're at, they teach you some of the techniques or methods that we're teaching in strategy. You might need that. So again, time, resources, money, all that stuff goes into determining if that's going to be a good prep company for you. If you want to meet with our Futureology counselors to have that discussion, please schedule a time to come in and do that. Or shoot me an email and give me some of your thoughts on the prep companies you want. I'll try to give you some feedback on it. But for most, you have to really look at your goals and what that's offering. It's hard to really give you a blanket statement on that. So they're all very different. For those taking the test Saturday, good luck. As I mentioned, you're going to need more based on your goals, really. All right, so I'm kind of running down the questions. The essays, what are the essay questions related to that are your college applications? We're not doing that, but we have some essay workshops happening. So if you go to Futureology, CSD-futurology.org/appointments-events, you can see all the essay events we have coming up. So I would say go to that. Reading section worth the time to read and annotate. We'll be covering that at a later session. I'm out of here. No, I'm not out of here, but thank you. You're welcome. How we get to the student practice test. There is a Word document in your folder that links to the practice tests. No, Futureology is a free service. Aid on your essays, your college essays. We help you brainstorm. Your SAT essays, you need to go see a prep specialist. We are not going to help you with that, unfortunately. And we're not doing essays in here. I don't know why, Anonymous, you're getting hung up on these essays. Your number scores are more important than your essay part. You can go online and look for some things to find out about your essays, but no, you'd have to go seek a prep specialist. Somebody studied SAT sporadically and taken multiple practice tests and quizzes. Would you say I'm prepared? I don't know what you started at and where you're trying to go, so I don't know if you're prepared. If you said you started at 1,000 and you're now at 1,300, I'm saying you're making great progress, but I still don't know your goal. So I cannot answer that without any more information. So either reach out to me directly and let me know, and then I can tell you if I think you're prepared. Okay. So I answered probably over 70 questions in an hour while giving you some information. Again, I'm going to finish this up for those that are still here, and I'd appreciate it. So prep smarter, not harder. We won't go over that. And here's my email again. So Sunday you have another session, 6 o'clock, same time, same place, different date. So Sunday at 6. I will be there with Alan. Alan's fantastic. So again, come with your questions. I'm going to put my video on for the last second. There I am. It really was me. It wasn't a recording. I was answering the questions, but I didn't want to distract you because of this mug here. I got a couple more questions coming in. Actually, no, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. You're welcome. You're welcome. It doesn't end here, guys. Don't say thank you. Don't thank me till probably it's after it's done and I put you through the rigors of 6 full sessions of SAT and ACT prep. But good night for now. You can log off, start logging off. I will stay on until you're all out. Again, I didn't cover everything I wanted. I had so much more, but we just didn't have the time, and that happens sometimes. But because you asked so many great questions, I had to stay on that. Thank you, thank you. See you Sunday. You will be ready to be gramified with Alan. The student folder was sent you in the email confirmation that I sent out if you had registered. So take a look for it. There's a link in there, just like you had the link to this session tonight. There's another link in there for the folder. I'm all caught up almost. You're not as worried. Daniel, thank you, but that was only one session. I'm telling you, if you go to all 6 and you listen to all 6, you'll be much less anxious, and it'll be make a huge difference. So attend all of those. If you can't make some, then watch the videos. So again, everybody who cannot make a session, come to the next one, and you will get the videos, and definitely watch those as well. Yeah, my plug and chug, yes, we'll be doing that on my next session next Wednesday. Excellent, excellent, great. You're welcome, Elizabeth. I'm going to stop the recording now.